give you a little bit of background, my background is in electronics. I was trained in the military in electronics. And as I got involved in looking at natural health, anything that had to do with electronic healing caught my attention. And back in the mid 80s, before the internet, I'd come across an electronic device built by a gentleman by the name of Royal Rife. Anybody ever heard of Royal Rife? And that really got my attention. And he was a genius who developed an electronic device that would eliminate viruses and bacteria using frequency. So I went down to the library. This is when they had the card catalog at the library. And I went down there and started digging through microfiche. Anybody remember what microfiche was? And in the process, I came across this article from the New York Times, 1938. And this paragraph right there caught my attention. And what it says is, the medical man of the future, Dr. Cryle said, would tune in on the living body as one does now on an ordinary radio by listening to the short waves and the long waves transmitted by the various organs. He would hear the symphony played by the living organism and would determine the rhythms of the dance of life. Long before there was any outward evidence of disease, the physician radio engineer of the future would thus be enabled to tell by the reception of the life waves whether they were playing a melody of health or whether they were signaling an SOS. That caught my attention. And I thought, well, how can you do that? How can you tune in to the body before any disease appears? And how can you actually communicate with the body that way? So, as it would happen, Spirit has been guiding me down this road because all these serendipity discoveries I made were just one after another. So as I was contemplating how can you tune into the living body, I discovered this book, Magnetism and Its Effects on the Living System. And in that book, they talk about the effects that magnetism has on the body. And as a result of that, they also, when I talked to the authors, they had done a lot of research back in the 40s and 50s on the effects of magnetism on the body and got a number of patents on the effects of magnetism on liquids and fluids. One of the patents they got is they actually were able to use a magnet as a diagnostic tool. And I don't know if you can see it, but it says, this is a patent, a U.S. government document, where they found that they could use a magnet as a diagnostic tool to conduct a screening diagnostic examination. And the abstract goes on to say that it can actually detect damaged, diseased, or malfunctioning body parts by the reaction of the leg links. And over here, they show that they position a person by sitting them down in a chair or laying them down, and they would equalize their leg links with their shoes on. And they would take a magnet, for example, a South Pole magnet and a North Pole magnet, and they would apply it externally to the body part, and they would gently raise the feet up. And if one leg shortened, then that indicated that that organ was out of balance. It was not functioning properly. It was diseased or malfunctioning. If, on the other hand, they applied the magnet and there was no change in the leg length, they would turn the magnet over and apply the opposite polarity. And if there was still no change in the leg length, it indicated that organ was functioning properly. For example, if you were looking at the liver and no change in both polarities indicated that the liver was functioning pretty much 100%. But if one polarity caused the leg to shorten, it indicated that organ is not functioning 100%. And the medical community says they've discovered over 500 known functions for the liver, for example. But the medical medium, if anybody's ever heard of the medical medium, he says that Spirit tells him that there's over 2,000 functions of the liver. So your liver is your greatest ally. So you need to love your liver. that's usually the first thing that goes. And when the liver goes, since it has over 2,000 functions throughout the body, it's going to affect other parts of the body. So based on this pattern, I actually went to a seminar and I was very skeptical. But when I had that done on me and saw it done, I was totally convinced. So I bought his magnets, I bought his manuals, went home and started practicing on friends and family. Any feat I could get my hands on, I was working with it. And as it so happened, I got to the point after working with this, I didn't need the magnets anymore. That spirit came to me and it guided me to the point to where it just came to me one day, you don't need the magnets. So now I can sit a person down in a chair and do the same thing, where I can sit, raise their feet up, which we'll demonstrate later on, and just drape their feet over a stool, and I can talk to the body just like I'm talking to you. And Spirit has created a universal trust, because over all these years, I've never had a single person who's unconscious, because that's what I'm communicating with, whose unconscious mind did not react. So as I continued my research, I put together a health protocol to where I can sit a person down in a chair, and it doesn't matter what kind of so-called disease you have, because I can communicate with the body and find the imbalance of energy. Now people say, oh, are you a doctor or a PhD? I say, no, I'm just a researcher. And I'm not diagnosing. I don't work with the medical realm. I don't diagnose. I don't get into diseases or cures, per se. But what I'm doing, it's all about energy. As we've been taught, everything is made of energy. So that means that at the subconscious level, what are we? Spiritual energy, right? So I'm communicating with that spiritual energy, that spiritual part of you. And that spiritual part of you knows exactly what's going on in your body. So if we can communicate with that spiritual part of you and go through the body and look for imbalances of energy by using your change in your leg length, the body will tell us the root cause of your health problem. So I continued and I put together a whole protocol based on that. That's my background. That's where we're going to start at. But to lay the foundation of where we're going, Sandra even mentioned the C word this morning. We're going to look at the C word. We're going to step outside the medical box that you have been accustomed to. Like the Wizard of Oz, you know, they keep you in fear because of the C word, right? We're going to look at it from a totally different perspective. And we're going to see if we can't take away that fear that you have around cancer and show you how there's alternatives out there that you probably aren't aware of that can actually change your life, can actually heal you. So the first thing we want to do is ask the question, what is cancer? You know, we've been led to believe that cancer is a disease, right? That creates fear in our body. But let's go to a very reliable source. This is a textbook of medical physiology by Dr. Arthur C. Guyton, the 7th edition. This is what the doctors use in medical school. This book has over 1,000 pages. How many pages do you think it has devoted to cancer? One. He's right. On page 38, it has the definition of cancer. I'm going to read this to you. It says right here, and you tell me what cancer is. It says, cancer is caused in all or almost all instances by a mutation of cellular genes that control cell growth. Okay, what does that say? Cancer is always caused by cell mutation. And then it goes on, it says, cells that are potentially cancerous are usually destroyed by the body's immune system before they can grow into a cancer. So what does that say? The immune system, right? Okay. Then it goes on to say, it is believed that all of us continuously forming cells that are potentially cancerous but that our immune system acts as a scavenger that nips these abnormal cells in the bud before they can become established. So what does that tell you? That cancer is not a disease, it's a condition, a naturally occurring condition. So why don't all of us have cancer?
Because some people's immune system are weaker.
That's it. It's a medical fact that you cannot get cancer if you have a strong immune system. So people who get cancer have a weakened immune system. So what does the medical system do?
They treat the symptom, or they take out the symptom, but they don't treat they don't get to the root of the issue.
And when they give you chemotherapy, what does chemotherapy do?
Weakens
Ah,
the immune system more.
how about that? You think they haven't read this book? Maybe we need to, next time you go into the doctor's office, you need to take a copy of this book and show it to them.
They're running a pimp game.
Yeah. Now we've got that out of the way, we're going to build on it. This is a very important video. This is one of my favorite videos that you can watch on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type up in the search engine eating documentary. And we're going to watch the first 8 minutes of this because this lays the groundwork and we're going to build on that. But you need to understand the problem that we're experiencing. We have a very serious problem that is continuously getting worse because of our food system and the pollution that we're experiencing. And most people aren't aware of that. They're just kind of going through life. But you need to understand what this is going to convey to you so we can actually improve on what you're going to see here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the bad news first, and then I'm going to show you the remedies that can help us all, even though the system is set up against us. And it is definitely set up against us. Okay, Tim, roll it.
My father died of cancer. My stepmother died of heart disease. My mother has severe osteoporosis. My sister-in-law is diabetic. A friend of mine was just diagnosed with breast cancer. My neighbor's on heart medicines and cholesterol-lowering drugs. All this sound familiar? What's not so familiar is that these health problems were caused by eating habits. In fact, eating is the biggest cause of disease, disabilities, and death in the U.S. today. And according to the Surgeon General, eating kills 2 out of 3 Americans every year. The American eating habit, in other words, is officially suicidal. For most of my life, I never made the connection. I was your typical American yuppie eating what I thought was a healthy diet. But that's just the problem. What we call a healthy diet, in fact what the government defines as a healthy diet, is health dangerous. People are dying of heart attacks, cancers, and other diseases because they're following these healthy guidelines. I remember the widow of a famous man saying she did everything right. She followed all the guidelines until she died of cancer in her early 60s. Later on, you'll meet Dr. Joseph Crow, a surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic who suffered a heart attack at the age of 44. And he completely reversed his heart disease by not following government guidelines. And you'll also meet Dr. Neil Pinckney, a psychologist who ate the standard American diet until his coronary arteries became blocked. Instead of bypass surgery, he reversed his heart disease by rejecting the advice of 4 doctors. And you'll meet Dr. Ruth Heydrich, a marathon runner who ate much better than government guidelines. She got breast cancer in her 40s as a result, and she beat the cancer only by waking up and not following the advice of 5 doctors. We assume we know more about health and nutrition now than we did back in the 1800s. Yet people living back then did not die because of what they ate. Before 1900, heart disease, our biggest killer, wasn't even included in medical textbooks. And cancer, diabetes, arthritis, and our other major diseases were rare and confined to the wealthy, who ate like most Americans eat today. People back then did not die of our current diseases because their eating habits were very different. Bread, potatoes, corn, oats, rye, barley meals, beans, and other vegetables, fruits, and whole grains were the major foods in their diets. Meat, dairy products, eggs, and fish were uncommon on the plates of working-class Americans. It's not that they didn't want these foods, they simply could not afford them. But during the 20th century, everything changed. As animal foods became more affordable, Americans switched from their plant-based diets to animal-based diets. This triggered the biggest dietary change in human history and ushered in a new era of eating-related diseases. By the middle of the century, Americans were suddenly dying of heart attacks, and cancer had all the earmarks of an epidemic in the making. In the last half of the century, we doubled our meat consumption, until the average American was eating more meat than they weighed, 225 pounds of meat every year. And while we were gorging ourselves on meat, our consumption of plant foods was reduced to iceberg lettuce, greasy French fries, and ketchup. And over half our calories came from refined foods containing artery-clogging fats. By the year 2000, the American diet had been turned completely upside down. As a result, heart disease rose from an obscure illness to become our #1 killer. Cancer, diabetes, and other little-known diseases became household names. We became the fattest nation on the planet, and we turned eating into the most popular form of unassisted suicide.
Today, the majority of school children already have signs of heart disease, and many are now taking cholesterol-lowering drugs. And 85% of adults suffer from hardening of the arteries, and half of the entire population will die prematurely due to heart disease. And over 40% of the population will develop a life-threatening cancer.
We've become a nation of walking wounded because of our diet. What Americans consider to be a healthy diet today is like a train wreck to the body. By age 65, we stuff over 50 tons of food down our throats, enough to fill 6 of these garbage trucks. In those quantities, the type of food you eat can devastate your body. Take a look at this staggering list of just some of the health disorders and diseases that are linked to our current eating habit. Americans are not unique. When people in other parts of the world abandon their traditional plant-based diets and start eating like Americans, they start dying like Americans. The pattern is not only obvious, but totally predictable. No matter where you look, when people adopt animal-based diets, heart disease and cancer suddenly become their biggest killers. This is now happening throughout the world in countries like Japan and China, where they're replacing rice and vegetables with meat and dairy products. And American eating diseases are spreading like wildfire. The one thing an animal-based diet does best is kill people. It does this by clogging arteries and restricting the flow of blood and oxygen throughout the body. Deprive the heart of oxygen, you get a heart attack. Deprive the brain of oxygen, you get a stroke. Deprive your tissues and cells of oxygen, and you set up the underlying cause of all cancers. Eating animal foods causes a fatty sludge buildup in your blood, and some of it sticks.
Do what? I just wanted to get everybody's attention to let you know what we're doing. By the way, that the World Health Organization says that all processed meats are considered a Category 1 known carcinogen. That's right in the same category as formaldehyde, benzene, tobacco smoke, and so forth. All processed meats. Now, this is the medical physiology textbook that we just looked at, where they talked about cancer and what causes the cancer's immune system. Now, I got free handouts. I get carried away with handouts. And we're going to look at this. Remember I mentioned chemotherapy and the big C? If you'll pass those around, if you would. Let me get one sheet. Okay. When you get this, we're going to go over it. And this came out of the cancer's own playbook. Came out of the clinical oncology. And I put this together because I've seen so many friends and family members go through the traditional therapy that I wanted to provide them with an option that they just didn't have. So if you know anybody who is going to go to their oncologist because they have cancer, you may want to share this with them. So let's go over that. Let's read the first paragraph. It says the following table was published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology in December 2004. The results of this study were astonishing, showing that chemotherapy has an average 5-year survival rate of just over 2% for all cancers. Now, if you want to watch a video, there's a video clip that you can go to right there on YouTube. But if you look down here in this table, you can pick out most any kind of cancer and go over to the right-hand side and see the percentage of 5-year survival rate. And if it goes on down below that, it shows you the actual pages that it came out of. And it says the overall contribution to chemotherapy is less than 3%. Now, how much is a placebo? You ever heard of the placebo effect? All healing involves a placebo effect, at least 30%, meaning that you could go, if you had cancer, you could take a sugar pill, and if you believed, you would get better results than going through chemotherapy. Now, if you really want to dive deeper, and you want to know what the side effects of chemotherapy are, there's a video by Dr. Lorraine Day, who was a medical trauma surgeon who cured herself of breast cancer. And I pulled this from her whole video series to where she's sitting there and for the next few minutes just giving you side effect of chemotherapy. So if you're thinking about going through chemotherapy, you may want to know that. And if you're thinking about doing chemotherapy, I would take this in to my oncologist because I had a friend who developed breast cancer and she did just that. She was determined she wasn't going to go through those treatments, but she wanted to see what the oncologist would say. So she went in with this. And they asked her, where did you get that? They didn't even know about it. It came out of their own playbook. And when she told them about that, they were basically dumbfounded. Nobody had ever told them because they're not trained in this. The system trains them to only use radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery. Now, if you look down at the very bottom, there's ways that you can actually help your body without poison. And I put together at the very bottom down there in the small print, one of the most recent ones is Chris Beat Cancer. Now you can go and pull up chrisbeatcancer.com, and this is a 20-some-year-old guy who actually had stage 3 colon cancer, and he refused chemotherapy and radiation, and he did went on a nutritional juice fast and so forth, and healed himself of cancer. And he's put together a number of different programs that's been on YouTube, and he's got video testimonies of people who have adopted his program that you can go on that website, get the whole story of his healing and other people and how they healed. And down here at the very bottom, it says Cancer Answer 1990. You can watch that seminar where he goes through using the same textbook that I just showed you and shows you that cancer is not a disease, it's a naturally occurring condition that we have been programmed to believe it's a scary disease that just happens to us. And if you ask the medical doctors, well, what caused cancer? They basically say, well, we don't know. But you know now what causes cancer? An inefficient immune system. So, what happens if your immune system drops 10% and you develop cancer? What happens if you raise your immune system up 15%? Yeah. Your body has the intelligence within. Your body has the intelligence within to heal most anything if you give it the right condition. People say, well, John, what do you think cancer is? I say, well, you can describe cancer in one word: environment. Environmental perception is the cause of cancer. Well, what do you mean by environmental perception? All our cells live in a fluid environment, just like a fish in an aquarium. And if you have a fish in an aquarium that gets sick, what do? First thing you do is you take the whole aquarium to the vet, and they check the water. They check the environment that that fish is in. So if our cells live in an aquarium environment, when the environment changes, your health changes. So Dr. Otto Warburg, anybody ever heard of Dr. Otto Warburg? Won the Nobel Prize for his discovery of what cancer is. He says all cancer, the primary cause of all cancer is when you reduce the oxygen content to the cells. And the cells, one of the interesting things about life is that all living organisms share similar characteristics. They're programmed for survival. They take in nutrition. They excrete waste. They have the ability to communicate. And they have the ability to change and alter their environment so they can survive. When your immune system gets low and cancer starts spreading, the cancer cells are programmed for survival. Now, the system actually goes in and they poison the body to try and kill the cancer. But the body has the intelligence, it's programmed for survival, so all you got to do is change the environment and the body will heal itself. Because we're going to reduce it down. We're going to pull the curtain back and we're going to expose the system, and we're going to see that there's only one disease. So if you'll pass those out. Book up there says, Never Be Sick Again. He wrote a second book called Never Fear Cancer Again. And his third book is called The Great American Hoax. Let's look at this possibility that there's only one disease. The medical system says there's over 10,000 diseases out there. They got names for everything we can't even pronounce. But according to Raymond Francis, who cured himself on his deathbed, he says that you can narrow it down to the cell level. And when you get down to the individual cell, let's take a liver cell. Let's pull this individual one liver cell out and look at it. There's only one thing that happens to that liver cell, and that's called cellular malfunction. That one individual cell doesn't function properly. You may say, well, it's broken. If it can't function properly, all the thousands of activities inside that cell can't function properly. But there's two causes that causes that cell not to function properly. What is it? Deficiency. What's the other one? Toxicity. You got an individual cell here, and when you furnish it with the proper nutrition and you remove the toxins that would interfere with it, that cell has the capability and the intelligence to function properly. Now, if you've got a liver that's made up of billions of individual cells and they're communicating and they're working in harmony, you don't have a liver problem. There are 6 pathways that will cause those 2 things to happen. One is lack of nutrition in our diet. When you have lack of nutrition, you have a deficiency. Second one is toxins. Toxins in our environment create toxicity. Both of those will interact. If you have very poor nutrition, the body can't get rid of the toxins. If you have too much toxins going to that cell, the cell can't take up the nutrition that it's getting. So they interact with each other. The third one is emotional, psychological stress. We all know about stress. You know, that causes disease, right? You've heard that. Well, how does it cause disease? The stress molecules create toxins. Okay, the third one is physical, lack of physical exercise. You know, the lymphatic system is not moving, so therefore they can't move the toxins out of the body. And another one is genetic, but genetics only play about a 2% role in this. Most all of us are born genetically with everything we need to be healthy. And the last one is medical pharmaceutical drugs. All drugs are toxic, all drugs are poison, all drugs create side effects. And what do? They create toxins to the cell. Take any disease, plug that formula into it. Multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, cancer. Name a disease that formula doesn't fit. Now you know the cause. What about, people say, well, what about arthritis? Formula fits. Arthritis is inflammation. What causes inflammation? Toxicity. What about cancer? Same thing. You change in the environment when you create toxicity and reduce the nutritional content. The medical system don't even know that. They're still playing on the fact that you've got thousands of different diseases. There's no such thing as diabetes. That's just a label that they put on a condition to where the cells are not functioning properly. You see that sheet I gave you? You've got the formula right there. On the right-hand side, you got the medical system where they're locked in on Newtonian physics. We're going to look at the other side, which is quantum physics and the spiritual realm. And let's compare the two. You go down and you see that we're looking at nature's way when we're dealing with the spiritual quantum realm. And that is based on love. We're loving our body. We're giving our body what it needs to survive and to thrive. And it talks about every cell as an intelligent, conscious being. On the other side, the medical system is based on fear. Because when you have cancer, you know, they have programmed you to be fearful of cancer, and immediately they want to push you into doing radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery because they don't want you to go out here and educate yourself. And people are scared to death. They're scared of that C word, aren't they, Sandra? I mean, you got this race coming up here, the race for the cure. What a racket that is. Think about it. Do they actually promote prevention? It's all about early diagnosis and treatment. And the very bottom on the right-hand side says the FDA rule. They claim only a drug can prevent, treat, or cure disease. All drugs are toxic. All drugs are poison. You've heard the side effects on TV. I mean, I've heard them so many times, I almost got them memorized, you know. There's one called Humira. You know, they treat that, they use that for arthritis and Crohn's disease and the side effects. Let's see if I can remember it. Humira may cause serious, sometimes fatal infections, including tuberculosis. Lymphoma and cancers have occurred. serious neurological and liver problems can occur. New and worsening heart conditions can occur. And I think when I'm watching that, why in the world would you even put that in your mouth? I mean, they're telling you right up front it can cause cancer, it can cause heart problems, it can cause neurological problems. You know, you can die from infections, because what is it doing? It's suppressing your immune system. How does it suppress the symptoms of somebody who's got arthritis and Crohn's disease? It suppresses the immune system, because the immune system is attacking the inflammation. So by suppressing the immune system, you're going to suppress the symptoms, but at the same time, you open yourself up for a whole host of problems. And now you got to go back to the doctor and get more drugs. So that's enough of the bad news, right? What can we do? Anybody ever heard of ESSIAC? ESSIAC was discovered by this Canadian nurse when she was in Canada. She came across a lady who had healed herself of breast cancer by a recipe of herbs given to her by Canadian Indians. And she actually healed her relatives with these herbs. And this is an excellent book that you can get off of eBay or Amazon. I don't know if you can read this right here, but she worked with Dr. Charles Bruch, who was President John F. Kennedy's personal physician. And working together, he made the claim, and I'm going to read what he actually says. The results we obtained with thousands of patients of various races, sexes, and ages with all types of cancer definitely proves ESSIAC to be a cure for cancer. Studies done in laboratories in the United States and Canada also fortify this claim. Doctor ever tell you about that? She ran a clinic for 8.5 years, and people from all over the country came to her, and she was getting remarkable results with this herbal formula. About 8 different herbs. How did it work? Look up there, and you can tell me how the herbs worked. The herbs are plant-based, right? Full of nutrition, right? The herbs are also detoxifying, right? That's how it worked. Aloe vera. Anybody know about aloe vera? Anybody ever heard of Miracle 2 healing soap? Yeah, you can get it. Miracle 2. Let me give you a quick summary. Miracle 2. This is how I really got stirred up. Back in '69, a gentleman who was a very wealthy businessman by the name of Clayton Teddington was injured in a car wreck, and he was laid up for about 9 months. The doctors didn't give him much hope for healing. So he was at home one Sunday afternoon, and his family left to go visit relatives, and he was watching TV. And down in Louisiana at the time, they only had about 3 channels, so he was flipping the channels, and he saw this religious program. And the preacher on the TV said, there's a man out here in TV land who's been injured in a car wreck, and if he believes, God will heal him. So Clayton said he didn't know anything to say, but he said, but he just said out loud, if there is a God out there and you heal me, he says, I'll do anything you want me to do. Just let me finish raising my children. He said he went to bed that night and got up the next morning totally healed. Went right back to work just like nothing had happened. And then for years, he kept hearing these voices in his head. And he's about to drive his wife crazy talking to himself, hearing these voices. And then he claimed that God came to him in one of these voices and said, I'm going to give you something that everybody on the planet's going to need. And those who believe will prosper, and you will prosper. And he said that right after that, he was awakened in the middle of the night, and he raised up in his big bedroom, and he saw this formulation written on his bedroom wall. And he woke his wife up, and she turned the light on, but she didn't see his vision. So he got her to take dictation, and she wrote down what he was describing. And a few days later, he went out and gathered these natural ingredients up and started mixing them up in his kitchen sink. And he said next thing he knew, he was foaming over, and he was ankle deep in suds. So he figured he must have some kind of soap. So he took it, his wife ran him out of the kitchen, and he took it out to the carport, and he noticed that it liquefied the grease on the carport. So he figured, well, he'll bottle this stuff up and give it away, because he had a lot of renters and businesses that he was involved with. So for about 8 years, he was giving this away. and he called it Miracle 2. It's a green healing soap that you used to buy it down at the health food store. You buy it at Charlotte Supplements now. You buy it online. And he claimed that God told him to separate the soap. And people were coming back to him and said, Clayton, this is the best soap I ever used. It's all natural. It cleans anything that water won't hurt. And he was giving this away and selling it. And then God told him, separate the water from the soap. So he separated the water. And he said he was in the factory, and he had this bottle that God told him to separate. And he said that his son came in and said, Dad, what's that? He says, I don't know. He says, well, what will it do? He says, I don't know that either. God told me to separate it. So everybody stood around in a circle, and he said, we need a name for this. So he came up with the name Neutralizer. So now he's got two products. It's liquid green soap and this bottle of clear liquid called Neutralizer. And people started using this, and they started drinking, and they started putting it in their eye. People were coming back and saying, hey, it eliminated cataracts. People say it eliminated cuts. It eliminated burns. It eliminated insect bites. And this lady came to him one day and says, in fact, he said he started praying to God. He said, God, you said great things are going to happen with this. He says, I'm not seeing great things. And this lady came to him who was involved in the ladies' bass fishing movement, and he had been giving her, swapping out gallons of this green soap for Christmas trees because she had a Christmas tree farm. She says, Clayton, I need to get some more of this green soap. She says, I know it's not Christmas time, but I need to get some more of that soap. She said, by the way, you know this stuff heals skin cancer. She says, you know my 92-year-old mama, you know, she's got skin cancers on her body, but she's been using and bathing in this soap, and all the skin cancers are gone. And she says her skin is just like smooth as a baby's bottle. So he started using, his skin problems went away, and people started coming back. And at the time I was recording this is back in 2002, and I was listening to a conference call, and there was a lady cancer doctor on there by Dr. Sandra Urbridge, who claimed she was using 7 drops of the clear liquid Neutralizer in a glass of water and healed her breast cancer. I uploaded that. You can actually listen to her testimony. So when I got wind of all that, I want to know, well, what causes this stuff to work? When you look on the back of the label, the first ingredient's prayer. And I thought, well, that's probably not what's doing it. So the second ingredient caught my attention. It said, energized oxygenated eloptic water, or something to that effect. And I thought, well, what does eloptic mean? And I went and looked. Eloptic means radionics. And the light bulbs went off because I had been experimenting with radionics 10 years earlier. And when I saw what that was, I thought, that's what's doing it. And I got some of their literature, and they gave the secret away in their literature. In one paragraph, it says that they radionically transfer the frequency of an aloe vera extract into the water. So it was the frequency of aloe vera in the water that was giving the healings. That led me down another rabbit hole. Why did they use aloe vera? Why didn't they use a carrot or an apple? And when I started looking at aloe vera, I was absolutely amazed. This is information that was done in the late 80s and 90s that you have never heard of because it has been so suppressed. This excellent book right here, The Silent Healer, is a big hardback textbook that shows all kind of pictures and stuff of people being healed. There we go. Anybody ever seen those books? This is a Franciscan monk down in Brazil who for 25 years was healing the peasants using aloe vera leaves, half a cup of whiskey, and honey. And he wrote 2 books. It says Cancer Can Be Cured, and the second book says Aloe Isn't Medicine, and Yet It Cures. More handouts. But this is stuff that you can take home and use as reference because I've done all the hard work for you. I've uploaded videos and audios. On the back side, there's a copy of a U.S. patent. In '79, a gentleman who bought a multi-level marketing company that had aloe vera products went to a medical school in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and offered to pay for research to find out, is there anything really medically active in the aloe vera? Because he had some aloe vera products he wanted to sell. He had plenty of money, so he paid the medical school to do research. The first thing they did is they come back and they discovered that aloe vera, when you cut it from the plant, has a very short lifespan because of the enzymatic activity. So what they had to do is figure out how to stabilize it. So they figured out how to stabilize this aloe vera, and then they gave it back to him, and he went back to his company and started putting it in skin creams and an aloe vera juice. And everything started going pretty good, and about 6-7 months later, he started getting these letters from women who says, this is pictures of me when I had skin problems and acne, and I've been using your night cream with aloe vera in it, and this is pictures of me now, and the skin problems cleared up. Well, what really caught his attention was when 8 AIDS patients contacted him, said I was full-blown AIDS, couldn't go to school, couldn't go to work, had all the symptoms of AIDS, started drinking your aloe vera juice, and now I'm back at school, back at work, don't have any symptoms of the AIDS virus. Just thought you want to know. He went back to the medical school and paid for more research to find out what is really the active ingredient that's healing. And as a result, they discovered it was a long sugar molecule called mannose. And they referred to it as Ace Manning. And before 1994, anything that created a medical benefit was considered a drug. So they went through the process of trying to isolate this chemical so they could get patents on it, so they could get it approved by the FDA to market it. But they had to go through all these trials with the FDA, and they failed the trials because one of the trials the FDA requires, you have to prove toxicity of the product, meaning you have to run 1,000 laboratory animals through giving them half of the chemical to see. You have to give the animals enough of the chemical to see how many animals actually died. So 50% of the animals died, and then you have to give the rest of the animals the remainder to see how many, all the animals died. They couldn't kill anything with it because it was totally non-toxic. But in the process of doing this research, they got over 100 patents on the breakdown on the application of this. And right here, you see that they've got a patent on the uses of aloe vera. And go down to the summary. You see right down there in that block? Let's read the first 4, and you tell me what it says. It says, causes the immune system of an animal to inhibit the growth of a tumor or cancer. Causes the immune system of an animal to destroy cancer. Causes the immune system of an animal to recognize the tumor or cancer is not self. Produces anti-cancer effects in animals that have cancer of viral, chemical, radiation, genetic, or other origins. What does that sound like? And then it goes on and says, enhances and stimulates the immune system. What did we discover a while ago that was the cause of cancer? An inefficient immune system. They're getting tremendous results with this. If you go all the way down to the bottom, you see some videos that I've uploaded you can actually listen to. The first one I would highly recommend you listen to. It's an audio I put up there that came out in 1991. And he talks about the research that they were doing at universities. And the universities and also the doctors who were using this. One of the trials that they did is they took 200 cancer patients that were going to go through radiation and chemotherapy and broke them up into groups of 100 each. One group got 1,000 milligrams of the active ingredient of aloe vera because they found that most of the aloe vera you buy at the health food store has been watered down and diluted. And what they discovered is that you have to have the active ingredient, which is if you take a quart jar or a liter of aloe vera pure gel, which is 98% water, and you dehydrate all the water off of it, what you've got left is a white powder. That's the active ingredient. And what they did is they gave these cancer patients in one group 1,000 milligrams of the active ingredient. The other group got none. In 60 days, everyone in the group that got the aloe vera were healed. 4.5 months later, none in the other group were healed. What does that imply? Is that the aloe vera, they didn't need chemotherapy, the aloe vera actually stimulated their immune system. And that's one of the things that it talks about in here. It talks, the whole first 4 says it stimulates the immune system. And when you stimulate the immune system, what does the body's intelligence do?
It replicates the cell.
It heals. A government U.S. patent. Doctor ever tell you about that? The Miracle 2 that I was telling you about, he was using the frequency of an aloe vera plant. In the water, the frequency was actually doing the same thing that the aloe was doing. That's what this Brazilian monk was doing. He was using fresh aloe. He was using the gel. But I found out that if you use the whole leaf, you even get better results. So, in my research, I went looking for aloe vera. And I found that most of the stuff in the health food store is worthless. And in fact, there's one product that is sold right now in the health food store that you can go and buy by the gallon. It's called George's Always Active Aloe. You can buy it in a quart and a gallon. It's pure water, 100% pure water. In fact, it tells you right there on the label, if you know how to read the label, it says a fractionally distillant of the aloe leaf. Anybody ever heard of distilled water? A distillant of the aloe leaf. Has no bitter aftertaste, tastes like spring water, has no polysaccharides. What the main ingredient that they found in aloe vera that was so healing was that mannose sugar, which is they referred to as polysaccharides. It's a long chain of starch molecules. When I started doing research on this, I wanted to find out, well, if they were getting healings with 1,000 milligrams of aloe vera, how much is 1,000 milligrams? Well, when I went to the manufacturers and got it in powder form, I measured it out. 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram. Well, how much is 1 gram in volume? It came out to 1/4 of a teaspoon, which means they were using 1/4 of a teaspoon of the concentrated pure aloe to get these kind of results. So I bought some. I went and got samples from the manufacturers who sell it to the bottlers who water it down and sell it to the health food stores, and I got it for myself. And I shared this with a Unity minister, and you know who I'm talking about, Kathy Nelson, who developed breast cancer back in 2000. And I worked with her and got her on this, healed her breast cancer. Not only did it heal her breast cancer, it didn't heal, didn't cure anything. It stimulated her body, gave her body the missing nutrients that's lacking. Remember that formula up there? And helped detoxify her body. And she healed herself of breast cancer, didn't she? Healed herself of Crohn's disease too, didn't she? So I take this every day, and I've shared it with people who've gotten very similar results. And then I wanted to know, well, what is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet? Because you can't, it's hard to find nutrient-dense food out here because everything is so polluted and the way food is grown. So I went looking, and my research showed me that it was algae. That was the very beginning of plant life, was algae. So I found the source for that. I buy that in 10 and 20-pound containers and mix it myself. Aloe vera and chlorella. Put that together. And people started saying, well, what do you take in the morning, John? I say, well, I take my aloe vera and I take my greens. And what I discovered also is going back to the frequency is I discovered how to energize water using technology that I discovered that Clayton Teddington was using in his Miracle 2 soap. He was radionically transferring the frequency of an aloe vera into the water, and that was what was getting the healing properties. Well, I got out my little prototype from years ago, and I started experimenting with it, and I started improving it. And I would do these thought experiments. I would get a person, I would do the experiment, and I'd get a person, and I'd sit them down, and I said, let me borrow your feet, let me communicate with spirit. And I'd ask their body, did this experiment work? and their body would tell me yes or no. And I would continue on, and I kept encoding frequencies into the water. And at one time, I worked with a medical doctor in town before he passed away, and he was into nutrition, and his fiance was into herbs and tinctures. And I worked with him and her, and he gave us full access to his clinic. And he had a whole shelves full of nutritional substances, and I would use her, and we'd go through all these shelves, and I would take my hand and just go through all of them on that shelf and sit her down, and I'd say, is anything on this shelf needs to be encoded in this water? Because I was using a little 2-ounce bottle of the Miracle 2 water that he discovered. And if the body said yes, I would take it and put it on my electronic device and encode that frequency in the water. Because water holds memory. Anybody heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto? You go on YouTube and type in water has memory. And I kept encoding and encoding and encoding, and did this over a number of years. And I got it to the point to where I could actually take that energy and it would transfer into anything that was natural, a piece of wood or anything else like a seashell. And since I didn't want to have stuff made, I wanted to find stuff off the shelf that I could use for this technology. So what I also discovered is that I could take a seashell and I could put it on my electronic device, and I could encode all these frequencies into this seashell. And this seashell would hold the energy. And thus I created what I call the star shell. And this little shell right here has the power to do remarkable things. Remember I said it was spiritually guided, spiritually revealed? We're going to demonstrate here, and I'm going to show you. Anybody bring a glass of water? Yeah. Okay. We're going to energize that water, and I'm going to show you what this will do. I've sold these around the world. It amazes me, because what I figured out is how to put life energy in it. It came to me one day. I thought I had maxed this thing out, and I was riding down the road, and it just came to me. Spirit just came to me and said, put life energy in it. And I thought, how are you going to put life energy in it? And then down the road, a day or two later, another thing popped in my mind, right out of the Bible. If you have the faith of I thought, that's it. A seed has life energy. It has spiritual life energy in it. So I went back, got this out, and put some seeds in it. And then I got me a friend, and I said, let me borrow your feet. And I set them down, and I got them to hold this, and I asked, did the energy go up? Because I had created my own number system to measure how much energy this thing was holding. So I called it spiritual spins. I called it spins, spiritual numerical system. And when I started out, I got a number. And as I kept encoding frequencies and frequencies into it, the spin ratio kept going up, because I'd asked the body, did the spin ratio go up? And the legs were short. And I said, yes. I say, okay, did it go up 100? Did it go up 200? And I narrowed it down. The leg was shortened. And I'd sit back and I'd say, where is this information coming from? You know, they don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just using their feet. And their body is communicating with me, guiding me down this path. So now I got this thing right here to where I've got a website and I've got it listed. And I tell people, you know, you can put this on your water line. You can actually tape it to the shower to energize the water coming into your house. And you can actually just touch it. So now is a good time to do a demonstration. So I'm having to go fast here because they gave me a short time limit, so I'm trying to get everything out that I can to share with you. But what I'm looking for right now in order to do the demonstration is somebody who's got a major health problem. Okay, I prefer a lady because they got real small feet that's light, who's got shoes on. Now I don't want sandals. I want somebody who's got shoes, backs. Everybody gets to see this. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit somebody right there in that chair. They're going to drape their feet over. Sandra's coming up. Okay, great. Okay. Sandra, if you drape your feet over that right there. Okay, let me slide this up so your feet will hang off. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can't see, you may want to come up and take a look, but that's okay.
No one's going to be able to see if people come and
Okay. Now, remember I talked about the magnets? I always like to start out with the magnets to create credibility. We got some high-power magnets here. So if we go through based on that pattern and let her place these magnets externally on her body parts and check her leg lengths, if there's anything out of balance, one leg's going to shorten because it indicates that if the organ is in balance, nothing causes it to go out. But if it's already out of balance and you put energy into it, it makes it go weaker. The body will react to this in a very subtle way, and neuromuscular changes will occur. So, you got any health problems going on? See, she's got health problems. She's probably been diagnosed. But what we're going to do is find out the root cause, because we're going to go back and look at the imbalances of energy that's causing the symptoms. Okay? Take that. That's the red side. Okay, that's the south pole of the magnet. Put the red side on your right rib cage. Okay. We're going to check the liver. So, now, can you see? Okay, just relax your feet. Now, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but see her heels are even right there? Can you see that? Now, people say, well, John, you're manipulating the feet. You're doing it yourself. I say, nope. Once you see, I can't get your foot to move at all, can I? It won't move at all. Look at that. But if I ask her body to give me an indication by shortening one leg and just gently pick up the foot, what happened? See it shorten? Look at that. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
This is a short leg, right? If I pull on the short leg, push on this one, it don't come back. Now, we don't want her to walk out of here with a limp. So as long as I hold that thought in memory, her leg's going to stay short. So I release the thought, and her body comes back and brings the leg back to normal. So I'm communicating with that subconscious, her subconscious, that spiritual part of her. Now, she's got the red side of the magnet on her liver, and there's no reaction. Okay? Turn it over to the black side, which is the north pole. And we pick the foot up. See the leg shorten? Shortened, didn't it? Okay. So since we don't diagnose or prescribe or anything, we're just looking at imbalances of energy, because it's all about energy. So move it right across underneath your breast. We're going to check the pancreas. Okay? We pick the foot up. It's short again, right? So we know her liver's out of balance. Her pancreas is out of balance. Now move it down to your belt line. Okay? We're going to check her descending colon. We pick the feet up. Short again, right? Turn it over to the red side. We pick it up. It's short again. I get a dual reaction on her colon. Now, that tells me that there's inflammation and weakness going on in her colon. That also tells me that there's high levels of toxicity going on in her colon. It also tells me that systemically that she's holding too much toxins. Let's take that. You have any female problems? Okay. I'm sorry? Okay. Now, we don't need the magnets anymore, because I'm just going to communicate with her body. I'm going to go right back and I'm going to ask about the stomach. Stomach's okay, doesn't shorten. I want to ask about the liver. This time this leg shortens. Is the liver reacting to the south pole? No, it's not. Reacting to the north pole? Yes, it is. See the leg shorten? Now we ask the body, what's causing the liver to be out of balance? Is it vitamin mineral deficiency? Yes, it is. Is it toxicity? Yes, it is. Now, her body is saying, remember that formula? Nutritional deficiency and toxicity? Her body is saying that the liver is experiencing that. The cells in her liver are experiencing lack of nutrition, and also is toxic. Now, her colon is giving me a dual reaction. You ever heard of leaky gut?
Yeah.
Okay. That creates an inflammation. throughout the body. Let's ask her body, what is the overall inflammation that she's experiencing? It should be down around 60%. If she's highly toxic, it'll be up in 70 to 80%. So if we ask her body, can we focus on Sandra's toxicity level? Her body says, yes, we can. Okay, what is the toxicity level? Is it greater than 70%? It is. Is it greater than 75? It is. Is it greater than 80%? No. Is it 75? No. 76, 77, 78. See it shortened on 78? Her body just said that her toxicity level is about 78%. That's too toxic. Now, if we go through, see, we could stop right there because her body has just told me everything it needs. She's suffering from nutritional deficiency and toxicity. Remember the formula up there? So whatever condition she's been diagnosed with, we plug that formula in, and her body is malnourished and toxic. So what can we do to help her? Because even watching that video, we know that it's too difficult to change your diet unless you're really committed. So what can we do to help her? Remember, it's all about energy. Remember I talked to you about the aloe vera and the frequencies and how I managed to encode nutritional frequencies in that star shell? She's got a bottle of water there, right? But this is so powerful, all she's got to do is touch it. In fact, we'll take this, put that on your liver, the black side, okay? A foot short, right? Shortens every time, don't it? Take it off, foot comes right back to normal, doesn't it? Put it back on. See it shorten? Okay, Sandra. Take your index finger and touch that. That's it. She's still got the magnet on there. Leg don't shorten. I can't get it short. Move it over to your pancreas. Leg don't shorten. Turn it over. Don't shorten. Move it down to you. Doesn't shorten. Turn it over. Doesn't shorten. Now, pick up your water. Now, we're going to energize her water, just like that. Actually, Sandra's a walking energized bottle of water right now. In fact, if we have another volunteer, we can bring the volunteer up, sit them in the chair, put the magnet on them, and if their body reacts and their leg shortens, all she's got to do is touch their shoulder because she's an energized bottle of water, and their body will come back to normal. She'll take the hand off of their shoulder, their body goes back out of balance. We just energize that water, and we ask the body, can her body detect the energy coming off that water? You see it shorten? Look at that. Take that water. Would you hold that water? She's about 4 or 5 feet away from that water. We ask her body, communicating with the spiritual part of her, can her body detect the energy field coming off that water? The leg shortens. That's a yes. Would you stand up and go over where David is? I'm going to ask her, the subconscious, I'm going to ask her body, can your body detect the energy field coming off of that water? Leg shortens. Where is that information coming from? How does she do that? Okay. So what we just did, using a patented diagnostic application, we found imbalances of energy in her body, and we used frequencies, and we gave, when she touched that star shell, she is 70-80% fluid, right? So when she touched it, it's like energizing that bottle of water. Instantly, her body reacted to it. That one exposure, her body will stay in balance for about 2.5 days. Now, let's just double check it. Put it back on your right rib cage, the black side. Legs don't shorten. Still balanced. So, that's the power. Now, what I also discovered is how to do this without her even touching anything. So I need another volunteer who's not balanced. Anybody? Anybody you got shoes? You're already balanced. We use your shoes. We can use you. Okay, have a seat real quick. Anybody ever heard of quantum entanglement? Yeah, give from your heart. I want you to break off a little small piece of that, about the size of a nickel, on this end right here. Just one piece. That's all we need. Yeah. Okay, I want you to moisten it with your saliva. Okay. We're getting a sample of his DNA. Put that in there. This is Marvin's DNA. I started researching quantum entanglement. Anybody know what quantum entanglement is? Quantum entanglement is the theory to where subatomic particles, when they come together and they're separated at great distances, if you alter one at a great distance, you automatically alter the other one instantaneously. So I've been able to, Spirit led me to be able to take that out of theory and make it practical in health. Okay. Let's see if Marvin's got anything out of balance with him. Okay. That's okay. That's good enough. Put the feet up there real quick. Let's see if there's anything out of balance with Marvin. Put it right on your right rib cage, black side. Okay. Okay. See your leg shorten? Okay. This is a short leg, right? Turn it over. Doesn't shorten, does it? Turn it back. Shortens, doesn't it? So his liver's out of balance. Wow. Move it down to your colon. Yep. Legs don't shorten. Turn it over. Legs shorten, right? Yeah. So his colon is giving me one reaction, meaning his colon is weak, but his liver is also out of balance. So we don't know what those 2,000 functions are that's being affected. Could be affecting his blood sugar, could be affecting his immune system, his blood pressure. Who knows? We don't care. What we care about is to bring it back into balance, right? Okay. So we got his DNA, and we're going to take this little cube and we're going to put it right in here, and we're going to close it up. So we got Marvin's DNA in this little cube. Marvin's not even touching that anymore. Put it on your liver, right side. Turn it over to the black side. We pick his feet up. His legs don't shorten. Turn it over. His legs don't shorten. I can't get it short, right? Turn it back. I won't shorten. Put it on your colon down there. Okay. Doesn't shorten. Can't get it short. We take his DNA out. His leg shortens. Look at that. Move it to your liver. Leg shortens. Can't get it long, can it? It won't come back. Look at that. No. Wow. We put it back in the box. Close it up. Still got it on there, right? Legs don't shorten. I can't get it short. So what we just did is we put his DNA in an energy field, and this energy field is connected to 3 higher dimensions. Now that's a big statement. How do I know that we're accessing 3 higher dimensions? We're going to ask him. Is this technology that we just experienced, is this accessing higher dimensions? What does it say? It says yes. Leg shorten, that's a yes. Okay, how many dimensions? Is it 5 dimensions? What does it say? Is it 4 dimensions? Is it 3 dimensions? Is it 2 dimensions?
No.
Is it 3 dimensions?
Yes.
Marvin just told me this technology is accessing 3 higher dimensions. How did he do that? So by communicating with the intelligence, that spiritual intelligence within Marvin, we can get a remarkable amount of information. And we just demonstrated that if we take his DNA and put it in this box, we can take this box and go to Florida. And his body is connected to this energy field, which is connected to 3 higher dimensions, and his body's going to stay in balance. So I'll give you your DNA back. So, by developing the star shell, that led me to develop the quantum cube. And as a result of that, I took the aloe vera that I bought and I energized it with the same technology. For example, what to do with the magnets again? Oh, show you the power. Okay, hold that. Put the black side back on your liver. Okay. Leg shorten, right? So you back out of balance. Hold that. Comes back into balance, doesn't it? Okay. Take that out of his hand. Can your body detect the energy field coming off of that aloe vera? What does it say? It says yes, right?
Yes, sure.
And
How long does the box hold the energy?
indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Yep. The star shell, people say, well, can I energize a glass of water? I say, well, only if you're going to give the water away, because as soon as you touch it and pick it up, you instantly energize your body. So I tell people, you know, the best thing to do this with, to use this, is to tape it to your water line, or just put it on your counter, and every morning when you get up, walk by and touch it. And your body will become energized, and all the organs will stay in a state of balance. So, how many people brought water? How many people want energized water? All you got to do is come up with the water, and I'll energize it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Now, that's good. And who's got some shoes on with backs? I don't like to work with sandals.
I do.
Okay.
I don't have much water left, but. that's
Would you,
all right.
we're going to do a little quick demonstration. Would you sit down right there? And, okay. Karen, I'm going to energize your water, and I'm going to let you touch that. Okay. Now you're energized. Now, I want you to put your water down real quick.
Wow.
Okay. Put your feet up there.
I can really feel it. Energy is just running up my arm.
You can feel that?
Yeah.
Take that.
Woo.
Put that on your right rib cage.
Side, too. And I'm like, it's like I'm
Okay.
drunk.
See her leg shorten? Look at that.
Yeah.
See it? Everybody see that? Okay. Turn it over. Leg don't shorten, right? Okay. Move it down to your colon right there. Dead shorten, right? Turn it over. Shortens, right? Look at it. See how much your leg shortens?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Karen, you just got energized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walk over and put your hand on her shoulder.
Keep this.
Mm-hmm. Legs don't shorten. Move it over to your liver. Legs don't shorten. Can't get it short, can I? Take your hand off her shoulder. Leg shorten. Look at it. 2 fingers. See her leg short?
Yes, it is.
Put your hand back on her shoulder. See it come back to normal? Look at that. Take your hand off her shoulder. See it shorten? She's a walking, energized bottle of water. I wanted to share with you because I know it's hard to change your diet. And I wanted to let you know that if you get to the point to where you're desperate and things are not working for you, there's places that you can go that can actually turn your health around. And in fact, the one in Atlanta, Georgia is called the Living Foods Institute. And you can go down there for 1 day to 30 days. And what they do is they immerse you into a nutritional detox program. Remember the formula up there? Yeah. They take you off all the junk food, all the animal products, and they immerse you into a total nutritional detox program. It's called the Living Foods Institute.
People come in with lupus and multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and chronic fatigue syndrome and schizophrenia and obesity and diabetes and arthritis and osteoporosis and on and on. People with multiple sclerosis. I mean, some of them have even gone blind from these things, and we have reversed blindness from it. I've had people with MS that were debilitated. I mean, not to even be able to get up and walk on their own, completely healed. Parkinson's patients coming in on day 1, shaking so dramatically that they couldn't even hold their hand out to shake it. By day 10, steady as a rock. Lupus. People come in wheelchairs sometimes. I mean, literally cannot raise their arm enough to feed themselves. And within 10 days, they're up and out of that wheelchair and walking. You know, AIDS and HIV. I've got so many testimonies now. I had one gentleman come. His viral load for AIDS was over 103,000 when he started my program. In 3 months, his viral load had dropped to 3,030. In 9 months, they could not detect the virus in his body, and his T cells had gone all the way back up. So we hear all the time that AIDS is incurable. Well, if it's incurable, then how is it disappearing from the body?
Okay, you got the other one? This is her story, how she healed herself.
In 1999, in February, I was diagnosed with both breast and cervical cancer. My doctor told me I would die in 6 months to a year at the maximum. And then the doctor immediately said that I had to have surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. But I refused those treatments because I had family members, my mother, all of my aunts on my mother's side, and my one aunt on my dad's side had all had either breast, cervical, uterine, or ovarian cancer, and they had done surgery and chemotherapy and radiation, and either the treatments killed them or their cancers came back with a vengeance, and it was very horrific in watching what happened to them. I was prepared to do anything other than that, meaning the surgery, the chemo, and the radiation. The lump that was in my breast was about the size of $0.50. In 1 month, it was about the size of a dime. That's how dramatically it shrunk. The bleeding that I'd had from the cervical tumors that had been really, really strong and going for quite a while, in 30 days, it was completely stopped.
Brenda now helps terminally ill cancer patients, as well as people with a wide spectrum of diseases.
I've had lots of terminal, hopeless, incurable. This is what they tell me. They come and they say, I hear stories like this. The doctor says that what I have is untreatable. That there really isn't anything that they can do for it, and that all that they can do now is to manage my pain. I have people that say the doctor has said I only have a few months or a few weeks. So I get a lot of those people. And I have seen people that have come back from brain cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, melanomas, and every other type of cancer.
One of Brenda's clients was Elizabeth Capadia.
And they sent me for an MRI, and I had a tumor on my pancreas. They gave me a chance of a 50-50 chance of living with the operation. They're going to take the pancreas out, and they told me that they would probably the gallbladder was bad, and they would take the gallbladder out as well.
After attending Brenda's program, she went back to the doctor for another MRI.
But I said I need it because I did a nutritional change, and so they finally said okay, and they sent me to for another MRI, and the tumor was completely gone.
She said, Brenda, I went back to the doctor. She said, they've had me come back in 4 times. They've retested me again and again because, believe it or not, they cannot find cancer anywhere in my body.
There are thousands of well-documented biopsy-proven cases of cancer reversals due to diet. Here is a list of some of the cancers that have been healed naturally.
There you go. You now have more knowledge than most doctors. And the quantum cube and the star shell listed on the website. I hope you learned enough to where it can make a difference in your life. I mean, now I think you know that if you've got an illness, you know, you can plug that formula in and say, okay, this is what's causing it. And all you got to do is change the environment. And you change the environment by changing your diet. What people don't realize is that the elephant in the room that all these people over the years have been dancing around, talking about, you know, it's beneficial to eat fruits and vegetables, you know, and all this. What they don't come right out and say is that humans, we were never designed to consume animal flesh, period. And because of that, it has wreaked havoc on our bodies. We are herbivores by nature. And it always comes up, where do you get your protein? I say, well, look out in nature. What's the strongest animals in nature? How about a 400 or 500 pound gorilla? Where do they get their protein? You don't see them eating barbecue pork. How about a racehorse, a multi-million-dollar racehorse? Where does it get its protein? You think it's got a protein problem? How about a cow that you eat trying to get protein? Where does the cow get its protein? They're herbivores, and they get all the protein and calcium they need from plants, which is what we were designed to eat, period. On one of those handouts, if you turn it over, it shows you all the diseases created by animal products. Yep. If you go down at the very bottom, fiber feeds the gut flora, the good bacteria that protect us against all kinds of diseases. It says we've known for years that a single meal of meat, dairy, and eggs triggers an inflammatory reaction inside the body within hours of consumption. The results is a stiffening of our arteries. One meal. In this routine of eating meat every day, we may be stuck in a chronic low-grade inflammation danger zone for most of our lives. This can set us up for inflammatory diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers one meal at a time. What exactly is causing meat-induced inflammation? Inflammation is an immune response to a perceived threat, but what's the body attacking? Investigators discovered that after a meal of animal products, one's bloodstream becomes soiled with bacterial toxins known as endotoxins. Saturated animal fat causes our gut lining to become leaky, allowing bacteria and bacterial waste to slip into our bloodstream. This causes an immune response and inflammation. That's what happens. The more cooked food you eat, the less healthy you're going to be. We're the only species on the planet that cooks its food. You know, even buzzards don't eat roadkill that's cooked. It's warmed, but it's not cooked. Yeah. So there used to be a place down in Shelby, North Carolina called Hallelujah Acres. Anybody remember Hallelujah Acres? Ever heard of that? Did you? His program was 85% raw, 15% cooked. And he had tens of thousands of people around the world who changed their diet to his dietary program and got thousands of testimonies. And he retired and moved to Florida, and his son and his wife now run it, and it's called Hallelujah Diet, which you can pull up on the internet. So I eat predominantly a raw food diet. I don't have any health problems. I mean, you know, I go every year to the VA and get a health checkup, and I'm clean across the board. That's the reason it's so hard, because the system is set up against us out there. Everything is meat-based, cheese-based, processed food, you know. Our bodies, our liver has never experienced anything like that. You know, our ancestors didn't have to deal with 10,000 chemicals and all these chemicals they put in the food supply. And that's the reason I went looking for the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. And it's the greens. So I buy that in bulk, and I energize it, and I put that in my smoothie with the aloe vera, because the aloe vera is the most healing herb out there. I mean, you saw what it does. They got patents on this stuff. So I consume that every day in my smoothie and drink the energized water. So that's one of the things that can actually help us is if you supplement your diet with not a bottle of individual supplements, to supplement your diet with whole food, a whole food powder. In fact, I was going to show you that that water that you just energized, that we just energized, is more powerful energetically than any nutritional supplement in the health food store. And on my website, I have a $3,000 guarantee. I back that up, just like we did the demonstration. I can take that water that's energized, put it in your hand, and ask your body, and you can have some of the best nutritional supplements over here, and ask your body which is more beneficial. And every time your body will react to that energized water, because that energized water is accessing 3 higher dimensions that has an amplifying effect, and it has millions of nutritional frequencies in it. And the body reacts to those nutritional frequencies just like if you'd eat an apple. People have a hard time understanding that. And I say, well, think about it. On the spiritual level, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So we're at this quantum level, we're spirit, right? We're energy. So what happens when you eat an apple? The body breaks that apple down into the thousands of individual nutritional components. And if you go deeper into the quantum level, each one of those molecules is made of what? Energy, right? So that means on the quantum level, we being energetic beings are interacting with energy from the apple, right? So what if we just give the body the frequencies and bypass the digestion? The body will react to the frequencies just like David's tuning forks. It will react to the frequencies just like it did to the apple. So the body's reacting to the energy frequencies in that water just like it was if you were eating the nutrition. Make sense? Yep. Also had people complain they didn't like the taste of the aloe vera, so what I did is I made my own product and put it in capsules.
Which is better.
Where's your sign about the aloe vera?
Sure.
The fresh leaves that you see in the